So welcome back everyone. Today we're going to continue on in section 2.1, looking at part 2 today. So today we're going to be looking at function notation, or we're really going to be looking at how to evaluate functions. So if you ever see a question and they ask you to evaluate the following, that's what we're going to be looking at today. So just a little bit about the notation. So how this is written is it's y equals, we read this as f of x. So it's not the product of f times x or anything like that. X is your input value or what you're plugging in. Y is your output value or your answer once you plug in something to your function. So we're going to look at how to evaluate functions algebraically and graphically. So you'll have some sections on Delta Math that do both of these. All right, so concept one, we're going to look at evaluating a function graphically. So I actually pulled this graph from Delta Math. So if you're working on it later, you might even see this graph, or you might see one that's at least similar to this. But they are going to ask us to evaluate or find different values of x. Because remember, f of 0, that means you're plugging in 0 in for x. F of 2, you're plugging in 2 for x. So these are all x values. All right, so how we want to approach this is, for example, f of 0, we're going to look at our x-axis. So I'm going to go to 0 on my x-axis, so that would be right in the center. And then I want to go up or down until I get to my function. So in this case, the v-shaped function's below. So I would go straight down until I hit my function. So it might be a little bit hard to see in the video. I hope you can, but you should see I went down 2. So my y value would be -2 to be on the graph at that x value. So f of 0 would be -2. Let's look at another one. F of 2, so we're going to go to 2 on my x-axis. So I start in the center, go 2 blocks to the right. Well, this is kind of an interesting situation because you see we don't really have to go up or down. I'm already on my function. So since I'm already there, that means my y value would be 0 because I didn't have to go up or down at all. Let's look at another one. F of -4. Same idea. I'm going to go 4 blocks to the left. You'll see it's kind of similar to the last one. We're actually already on our function. So since we didn't have to go up or down, my y value would just be 0. How about you guys try this last one? So go to -8 on your x-axis and see how far up or down you have to go to get to your function. So if you gave that a shot, you would go over to -8. So you can count or look at the numbers. They just put the even numbers. Then we're going to go straight up to my graph. So it looks like I hit about here. If I look to the right, that would be at 4. So that's how you evaluate a function graphically. Go to the x value they give you and see how far up or down you have to go. A challenge question, you won't see this in Delta Math, but I just wanted to show you because you could see this like on the ECT, or if you're retaking one of those air tests, like the algebra air test, this could be potentially asked. What if they give you f of x equals 2? Remember, f of x is really your y. So what if they gave you the y value and they wanted you to figure out what values of x make it true? Well, see if I can do this and have you be able to see. You would go up 2. Make sure I angle that so you can still see the graph. So you would see at 2 it crosses here. Oops. And it crosses about here. So if you look, this point would be at -6. And this point would be at 4 on our x value. So we would have actually 2 answers because there's 2 x values that make the graph have a height of 2. All right, so our last concept we're going to be looking at is how to evaluate a function algebraically. So this should be review, but it's a good thing to get practice with because it's something that comes up a lot. Like for example, on the ACT, I would not be surprised to see a question similar to this. So it says for f of x equals negative 2x plus 5, find f of negative 3. So remember, this is your input or your x value. All you're going to do is plug this into this equation for x. One thing you want to get in the habit of is you want to put parentheses around where you plug it in. So then you could just type this in a calculator or your phone calculator. Just be careful with the parentheses. But if you do so, you should get that this is negative 2 times 5, that would be negative 10, plus 5, that would be negative 5. How about you guys try this second one? So similar idea, they're telling you the function is f of x equals 5x minus 3. They want you to find f of 5, or in other words, plug in 5. So give this one a shot. All right, if you gave that one a try, you should have had 5 times 5 minus 3. If you plug that in, that would be 25 minus 3, or 22. One example where it's really important you put those parentheses is if you have a variable squared. So for example, this next problem we have f of x equals x squared minus 2x plus 2. They want us to find f of negative 1. So if you have more than one x spot, you're just going to plug it into both. So we would have negative 1 squared minus 2 times negative 1 plus 2. If we work this out, you should get that this is positive 1. This would turn into a plus 2. You should get 5. So be really careful when you plug this in. Like if you put this in your calculator, like if you plug in negative 1 squared, your calculator is going to give you negative 1. But that's not right, because remember, negative 1 squared is really negative 1 times negative 1. So to make your calculator do it correct, you really got to put those parentheses around it. If you don't, you'll get the wrong answer. So just in general, just make sure you put parentheses around your answer, because these questions aren't difficult, but you need to take the time to properly input them into your calculator. So then let's look at our final example. So we have x squared plus 2x plus 1. They want you to find f of 2. So how about you guys give this one a try on your own and see what you get. All right, if you gave it a try, you should have had 2 squared plus 2 times 2 plus 1. So if you work that out, you should have got 9, and that would be your answer. So that's a little bit of practice of evaluating functions. You'll have 3 sections in Delta Math. One of them is graphing that we saw earlier, and 2 of them are over evaluating functions. One section is pretty basic equations like these, and then the second equation, it has a little bit more to it, where maybe you have more than one variable, or you have some exponents. So good luck. Let me know if you have questions when you get to the Delta Math.